Following a few comments and questions that people have asked, this is going to be a discussion about adding things to your fuel tank. And we're not talking about official additives. We're just talking about stuff that people have picked up in TikTok videos, in AI generated YouTube channels and other outdated advice, and how this could seriously damage our engine. And the key thing, I've seen so many videos promoting the use of putting WD-40 into our fuel tank, and they claim that it's going to do all sorts of wonderful things for the combustion. It's going to make the engine more powerful, it's going to make it more economical. So let's now then just dissect this myth, see what the claims are and what the reality is, and just really make ourselves aware of potential problems we can be causing by following this really shoddy AI generated or TikTok advice that's out there. WD-40 is fantastic. It's a water dispersant. It's great for freeing up hinges and rusty screws and bolts and things, but it doesn't belong in our fuel tank. It wasn't designed for combustion. It contains aliphatic hydrocarbons, some mineral oils, a small amount of lubricant that gives it its lubrication properties. It wasn't designed to be combusted. I've even seen recommendations for people putting nail varnish remover into the fuel tank because it boosts octane. Now, many years ago, car engines used to be fairly crude. Fuel injection systems either didn't exist because people had carburetors, or they were very, very basic fuel injection systems. And now we've got a positive lab going on inside our engine, monitoring everything. There's so many more sensors in the modern engine than we ever used to have 30 or 40 years ago. And this really is the sea change that we've seen. All of the advice that was given prior to this is completely outdated in modern terms. The arguments are that this improves the way the fuel is burnt inside the engine. It's just a magic formula that allows you to get more MPG, and it also increases the power. Now, in some engines, that may actually be the case to a certain extent. You may see short-term benefits in higher MPG and more power and more performance. For most, that's not the case. And in all cases, in a modern engine, it's going to cause problems long term. You're going to run up some very expensive repair bills just because we're using this additive. Now, manufacturers of fuel are aware of how fuel burns. They pay scientists, and their day-to-day job is to make sure that they can extract as much power from the fuel and get as much energy as cleanly as possible from that fuel as it is burned. If they discovered that WD-40 or two-stroke oil was a magic ingredient, it would already be in the fuel that we buy. We wouldn't have to go out and buy extra or go to the extra trouble of putting it in ourselves each time we fill up. Catalytic converters can cost 800 upwards. Particulate filters can cost around 2,000 upwards in some cases. We don't really want to be damaging these expensive components just for the benefit of an extra 1 or 2 MPG. And it's a claimed addition to the fuel economy that we get. The other problem we have is all the sensors in the engine will become fouled up and we'll have problems. The O2 sensor in the exhaust particularly, if that stops working, the fuel metering is going to be completely wrong. We'll start to get poor running, bad idling, and even stalling, or even refusals to start when the engine is warm or when it's cold. It's not just stuff that you put in the fuel tank. I've also seen recommendations for people to put things in the engine oil, which is crazy because that can also have a detrimental effect on your catalyst, your particulate filters, and just generally play havoc with all these components inside the engine and the oil pump and oil circulation systems. Do we actually burn oil in our engine? Well, the engine uses oil to lubricate every component, and the back of the piston, the cylinder walls, have a coating of oil. The piston itself has an oil control ring that scrapes the oil away and returns it back to the sump as it travels. Now, particularly when the engine is cold, there's more oil going into the combustion part of the cylinder, and that really burns, and that's how it gets into our exhaust system and into the particulate filters and even into our catalyst. Even a well-designed engine will burn a little bit of oil. It's just the nature of how engines work. You'll never get completely rid of that film of oil above the piston as it starts to scrape down, and it's actually there to provide a little bit of protection, and it makes the engine more powerful because it's not engaging with lots of friction dragging that piston down. So the lubrication is there for a reason, but it needs to be the right stuff that's lubricating the engine. We're going to talk particularly about ZDP. It's a property used in oils, and it was generally regarded as something that promotes engine protection. It bonded to the metal surfaces. It basically created a sacrificial layer, so that layer would take the wear and tear before the metal surfaces underneath, and it was very, very effective. You can see why they used it in these oils. The problem is, though, that if that gets into our particulate filters, it's going to clog, because this creates ash that can't be burnt within the particulate filter, and this ash will just build up until the filter is eventually clogged up. Please be careful where you get your advice from. If it's just an AI generated channel that's a load of clips that have been strung together with text popping up on the screen to keep the attention challenged audience that they seek as engaged as possible, they're just in it to make a quick buck. They don't really care what happens to your car. If they got clicks, they would tell you gladly to put a banana in your fuel tank, because that makes a great thumbnail. It makes people click on it. But after that, they're happy because they've made their revenue. They've had an audience watching. But it's very much the detriment of the people that follow this bad advice. Look for YouTubers that show their face, YouTubers that stand behind the advice that they give, that don't just regurgitate this age-old advice, and they can actually give you things that are to your practical benefit and will improve your car's performance or economy through tried and tested means. I found one tip is just always look out for the 4K logo. If YouTube have had a 4K video uploaded, more work has generally gone into that. There's more investment. The many quick turnaround channels that are popping up don't invest in 4K footage because it costs them more money. They do everything as cheaply as possible. They don't invest in the equipment they need to edit 4K footage properly. And that really, for me, is the biggest indicator. If I don't see a 4K logo on a video, unless I know it's a credible creator, I will generally avoid clicking on it. Let me know if you've got any other tips for spotting this bad advice that's out there on YouTube, on TikTok, and on other social media channels, and whether you've tried something and fallen foul of it and got a problem. But thanks so much for watching this video. Please boot the like button. That really does help us to get out there. Tell your mates about us. The more the merrier. We really do need people watching our videos in order to just try and cover some of the costs that we run up making these videos. But I love doing it. I love making these videos and sharing the information that I've picked up. If I can save people a little bit of money here and there through the advice that I'm giving out, I count that as a win. It's a benefit. I do this for the community, not to make a quick profit. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, please do so. We'd love you to stay tuned and not miss out on the great content we've got planned. And I've lined up this video and this playlist that you should find really interesting. Thanks for watching. See you in this next video.